So how do you prepare for Everest? Like, and it's in your mind. Do you read books about it? Do you learn about it? You know, were you ever a guy that could climb? What about the cold? I mean, just...
Yeah, I'd climbed in Nepal before, but I'd only been up to just over 6,000 meters, and Everest is 8,848. So it's just under 30,000 feet. So when you look up at an airline flying across the sky and you see that white vapor trail, that's almost the height of Everest. It's a little bit higher. So the cold is not too much of a problem. Depending on what part of the mountain you're on, the temperatures can drop to between minus 20 or minus 40. Sometimes it's minus 40 up on the summit.
Celsius.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
cold.
yeah, oh God, yeah, it's pretty cold. But actually, you get a lot of confidence out of the equipment, and nowadays the equipment's come on so much that it's not. It really wasn't that bad. I've felt colder walking around London.
Okay, because you had all the gear and the boots
all the right
and
stuff.
Okay,
Absolutely, yeah, that makes a big difference.
And the process of doing it from start until finish, how long does it take to do an Everest summit?
It took me about 6 weeks.
Okay.
So you compare that to spending almost 4 months out in the Atlantic. It's over relatively quickly, and you're also with other people as well.
Okay.
And
but you said it was the hardest thing you've ever done.
Yeah, and Everest is not technically a difficult mountain to climb. To be honest, it's actually really easy technically. It's really more of a scramble. It's whether you have the ability to deal with the lower levels of oxygen as you start going higher. And some people can adapt and acclimatize, and others just can't. And they may be really fit individuals, but their bodies just can't adapt. And doctors to this day still don't know what gene it is that people possess that enable them to acclimatize. Now, I was just lucky. I did acclimatize, and when you get out there, it's not a simple case of just rocking up and making your way to the summit. You've got to go through a series of acclimatization climbs. So you're going up, down to the different camps, working your way up, coming back down again.
So you go up and spend a few hours up there? And then
so you'll go up from base camp, you'll go up through the Khumbu Icefall and you'll spend a night at Camp 1, and then you'll come back down to base camp. And then you have a few days rest. And then from there, you go back up and bypass Camp 1 and go to Camp 2, and again, spend a night there. Then I came back down. Then I went back up to Camp 2, spent a night there, then went up to Camp 3. And then I came back down to 2, and then back down to base camp.
And this is all a standard process that everyone
has to. Yeah.
The Sherpas,
even the Sherpas, they won't go. They will do acclimatization climbs. They have to
because they know that this is how your body deals with it.
Basically,
you can't go straight up.
No. What happens over time is your body starts to produce more red blood cells that carry the oxygen around the body. And there is effectively no shortcut to the summit of Everest. You have to go through that process. So I don't really think there would be anyone that could just arrive at base camp and make their way up to the summit without getting incredibly ill. And that's also, you're using supplementary oxygen as well. And we went on supplementary oxygen at Camp 3, which is about 7,000 meters. But it's not like when you go scuba diving and you've got 100% oxygen. You're breathing the atmospheric air that's around you, but the oxygen is trickling in through a tube into the mask, and it's topping up what you're breathing, basically. But it makes a big, big difference, a huge difference.
What's it like not having enough oxygen? Like, what does it do to your brain, to your body?
The best way to describe it is, imagine running a 100-meter sprint down the road, and you're really out of breath. It's like that pretty much all the time as you go higher up. But you're not running anywhere. You're moving at an absolute snail's pace, yet your heart is beating at like 180 plus beats a minute. You're gasping for every breath. And it takes a lot of getting used to. And actually, in the beginning, I found it quite intimidating, quite scary. But you just, kind of try and stay calm. And you do get used to it after a while. Your breathing does eventually slow down. Still, it's very intense. And I think for me, it's physically the hardest I've ever pushed myself in my entire life. I mean, I was actually very sick coming back down. I had quite a nasty lung infection. It wasn't really anything to do with altitude sickness. It was just I got tired and run down and actually picked up pneumonia. And it was coming back down that I really struggled. I mean, it was thanks to my Sherpa Dorji that got me back down. But going up is actually quite straightforward. And you realise, and this is all just my own experience. Yeah. When I was stood on top of Everest, I stood there for about 15 minutes, and it was all quite surreal. I knew where I was, and I was taking in the view, but it was almost like I wasn't there, and I knew I had to get back down quickly, because when you get to the top, you're only halfway. You still got to get back down, and that is considerably harder. And I think I had this adrenaline and excitement that was rushing through my body, that was driving me to the top, and it was that got me there. And I remember, we took a few Dorji. In fact, it was the 16th of May in 2011. And it was just Dorji and I. There were more people that summited that day, but at the time when I was there, I was one of the last guys to summit actually that day. It was 8:30 in the morning, and it was just Dorji and I. There was no one else on top of the world. So for that 15 minutes, we literally were the only people up there. But I quickly sort of started to panic and realized that actually I've not done it. I'm in fact only halfway. I've still got to get back down. And as we started making our way back down, I just lost the ability to breathe. I was taking one step and I was out of breath and I had to rest. And I remember Dorji was going berserk, saying, look, you've got to get moving, because if you don't, you're going to run out of oxygen and you're going to get cold and you're simply going to die. There's nothing I can do about it.
To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonrealacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media login and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonrealacademy.com. So click on the link below. You'll be directed there and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.